These are 8 horrifying facts that will probably keep you up at night. There are thousands of old diseases frozen in the glaciers of the world, and global warming will eventually release them all. If a person dies in their costume at Disney, like Mickey Mouse, they have to be sat down on a bench so it looks like they're resting. Climate change is making spiders bigger. Some female spiders allow their young to eat them alive. Tooth in the eye surgery is when surgeons put a tooth in a blind person's eye to restore their sight. It was pioneered in the 1960s, and it actually works, and it's still being done today. The chances of a successful CPR outside of a hospital is only 7%. Cell phones are 10 times dirtier than a toilet seat. When you suddenly wake up during the night without any reason, there was someone or something staring at you. Yeah, there's a lot more, like for part 12.
Here are facts you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 6. If you see money falling from buildings, do not pick it up. Get out of there immediately. It's a way terrorists gather more people into a collected area. If you smell cinnamon in your drink, do not drink it. It's a cover-up for poison. If you're in the woods with nothing to eat, the yellow dandelions are fully edible. If you get bitten and poisoned, do not suck it. This will only make it worse. If you see a white fuzzy spot on your banana, do not eat it. This is a spider infestation. If the air starts to smell like chlorine during a storm, it means lightning might hit the area you're standing in very soon. If you or someone else is eating a fruit and they complain about it tasting fuzzy or hairy, it might mean that they're allergic to it. If you need heat or a light, a crayon will burn for 14 minutes. If you're outside and you're freezing, and then all of a sudden you feel warm with no explanation, do not remove your clothes. You're about to die, and your body is spending its very last energy heating you up. Seek shelter and warmth immediately.
Africa wants a new world map, calling the current one the world's longest misinformation campaign. This week, the African Union officially backed what's called the Correct Map campaign, which aims to replace our current standardized world map with a version that shows a country's true size. You see, the Mercator map intentionally distorts the sizes of continents and countries for navigation purposes. So it appears that Africa is a similar size to the US or China, when in reality, it is so much bigger that the US, China, India, Japan, and much of Western Europe can all fit into Africa, and there still would be space left over. The African Union says that this over 500-year-old map is outdated, and are now calling for schools, governments, and international institutions to adopt images that reflect a country's true size. They propose the Equal Earth projection because they say this is so much more than just a map. It's about Africa's identity and pride. In fact, the head of a campaign group backing this says it's the world's longest misinformation and disinformation campaign, and it simply has to stop. But the question is, what do you think? Does size truly matter, or is the current map fine the way it is?
Here are some facts that you probably didn't know that one day could save your life. Part 21. If your microwave is broken, do not try and fix it. Even if it's been unplugged for several days, it still holds a current capable of shocking you to death. If you're ever doing work on a car, always have it on jack stands or a lift. Car jacks are for lifting, not holding. If you're wounded but have a cigarette nearby, you can actually use the filling to pack the injury. This is because tobacco is aseptic, meaning there's little to no harmful bacteria. If you drink bad homemade alcohol, it may contain methanol, which is deadly. Ironically though, the cure is ethanol or regular alcohol, so if you get sick from moonshine, a glass of whiskey or some vodka could save your life. Some women anecdotally reported that breast implants offer protection from knives and sometimes bullets, so scientists at the University of Utah decided to test this. And while they aren't 100% bulletproof, them silicone tatas sure do make an impact.
World records that will probably never be broken. Up first, we have Kevin Fast. He holds the record for the longest distance an airplane was pulled. He pulled an entire plane for 28 feet. This is extremely hard, and it's very unlikely this record will ever be broken. Next up, we have Thomas Blackthorne. In 2004, he broke a record for the heaviest weight supported by a tongue. He pierced his tongue with a hook and lifted 27 pounds for 5 seconds. I can't even imagine doing this. Apparently, he trained for 6 years before this. And don't worry, he did not get hurt.
Today, Googled what is the most someone has sold their virginity for. So in 5th place was 20-year-old Brazilian student Catarina, who sold her virginity for a whopping $780,000 in 2013. She claims that it never ended up happening and then put herself back on the market for the second time. It was never confirmed whether she was telling the truth about whether it happened or not. In 4th place, we have 27-year-old medical student Elizabeth Rain, who sold it for $801,000. She was the only one on the list who designed her own auction website, had a PR company managing her bids, and had an entire page devoted to the terms and conditions of the arrangement. In 3rd place, we have 18-year-old Gracilia Yataco from Peru, who got an offer of $1.5 million for the old V card, but apparently turned it down. In 2nd place is the Italian model and Big Brother Italy contestant Raffaella Fico. She said that she would sell it for $1.8 million, saying, "If I don't like it, I'll just have a glass of wine and forget about it." And that's like a lot of these, the sale was never fully confirmed because in most countries it's actually illegal. And then in at number 1, and by far the most well-known on the list, is Natalie Dillon, who received an offer of $3.7 million. She apparently even received a $250,000 deposit put up by an Australian businessman before choosing to not go through with it at the last minute.
There was a group of animals so disgusting that not only did they traumatize a researcher, all of his studies about them had to be hidden from the public. British explorer George Levick literally messed around and found out when he joined an Antarctica expedition in 1911. That's when he came across a colony of Adelie penguins, and he decided to stay and observe them for an entire breeding season. He would regret that, because he found out that Adelie penguins are 50 shades of morally bankrupt. He watched in shock as the male penguins would attempt to mate with literally anything. This included other males, females too injured to resist, and he even witnessed them make moves on unaccompanied and very much underage chicks. It was so vile that in his journals, George referred to them as hooligan cocks. It didn't stop there, in fact it got worse. There were multiple cases where George watched a down bad bird score with a decomposing corpse, like to the point where males were fighting over it. Because apparently not having a pulse doesn't mean you're off the table. And just to see how far they'd go, he took the frozen head of a decapitated female and propped it against a mound of ice. The answer was far enough. And in one down egregious case, a male mated with the ground to completion. He also learned that if male Adelies understood the signs that a female wants to mate, they could not care less about it. In one case, a female was so crippled that she couldn't even walk, she could only painfully crawl on her belly. A male walked up to the handicapped female, and in 60 seconds he managed to destroy everything George thought he knew about them. He wrote down every messed up thing he had learned, but because the contents of his research were so graphically descriptive, the British Museum of Natural History refused to publish it and vaulted it. It was finally published almost 100 years later, meaning man's got traumatized in every way and didn't even live long enough to see his work get recognized. Oh, but the worst part? These guys are Adelie penguins. And you can probably guess who the light work is.
People with giant body parts. Up first, we have Jason Rodriguez. He holds the record for the largest feet in the entire world. He wears a shocking size 70 in European sizing, and his feet are over 40 centimeters long. He needs specially made shoes because, of course, regular ones don't fit. Next up, we have Samantha Ramsdell. She's officially the woman with the widest mouth. Her mouth measures 10 centimeters in width. She went viral on TikTok for being able to eat very large sandwiches and could even eat full fruits.
If a masked woman in Japan asks you if she's beautiful, be careful how you respond. It could be Kuchisakeona. Some people call her the slit-mouthed woman. She was abused and mutilated during her lifetime. It's said that her husband cut a smile on his face from ear to ear. She now haunts the streets of Japan wearing a mask and rusty scissors, asking people one question: if they think she's beautiful or not.
You think I'm beautiful?
Yeah.
still think I'm beautiful?
What happened to you?
Comment down below, smash or pass. By the way, a lot of y'all keep asking how's Gizmo. He is 14 years old now. Let's give him a biggie. Oh, you look at the biggie. If you encounter her, please be careful how you answer her question. If you say yes, she'll take her mask off and ask you again. And if you say yes one more time, she'll cut you a smile on your face just like hers. Oh, and if you say no, she'll unalive you right there and then. So what do? How do you survive? 1,000 IQ right here. Tell her she aight. I mean, girl, you aight. You know what I'm saying? You cool. Like, I smash, but can we put a bag over your face? The other way to survive is to throw money at her, which she'll stop to pick up, giving you enough time to run away. My lord, this smoothie is unequivocally f***ing buzzing.
This is why you should never let your kids play outside alone or even take your eyes off of them for a second, even if it's in your own front yard. This is 6-year-old Gracelyn Vick. This case is out of Mississippi, and she was last seen by her family heading outside to play in her front yard on Sunday afternoon before she completely disappeared. Her family then reported her missing, and first responders immediately began searching air, land, and water with ATVs, a helicopter, canine units, and even volunteers before they made the horrifying discovery of Gracelyn's body, which was questionably found in the vicinity of the family's property. Details about this case are very limited, but people in the area are saying that she was found in a barrel, and this has something to do with her mother's boyfriend, and that her mother and her boyfriend are already arrested, but none of this has been confirmed by police. While investigators didn't confirm any foul play, they did have crime tapes surrounding the scene. They're still working on the cause of death and autopsy results to determine if this was a tragic accident or if something was done to her. But rest in peace to Gracelyn. Let me know what you guys think about this, and as any new details come out, I'll keep you guys updated.
13 kids chained to their beds. They were starved, abused, living in filth for years, and somehow nobody noticed. Let's talk about the Turpin family, because this was actually breaking my heart. The parents, David and Louise Turpin, he was 23, she was 16 when they got married, which is already a walking red flag. They went on to have 13 kids, ages 2 to 29, and on the outside, they looked like a regular, quiet, religious family. But inside that house, I don't know any other way to explain it other than pure hell. The walls were covered in grime, the air smelled like human waste, there was trash everywhere, mattresses were filled with piss, and the kids were literally chained to their beds with padlocks, sometimes for days, sometimes for months. They were so starved that their arms looked like twigs, and then the grown-up kids looked 12. That is how malnourished they were. They got a shower once a year, and if they had an accident, they would be left sitting in it for hours. Oh, and get this, the fridge, it was fully stocked, but it was locked. The food was there, but they couldn't touch it. And when one of the older kids tried to sneak a bite of food, the parents made them watch as the family cat got mauled to death by wild dogs. Can we all agree that's psychotic as hell? But it gets way worse. They claim to be homeschooling their kids, but they were not teaching them a damn thing. Most of them couldn't spell their own names. Some of them didn't even know what day it was. They weren't allowed to talk to each other, and their parents controlled every single second of their lives. And you're probably thinking, where was CPS? Where were their neighbors? Oh, the neighbors noticed. They said that the kids looked pale, thin, shy, but they just assumed that it was like homeschool awkwardness, and they just kept it pushing. Nobody said a thing. The system never stepped up, not once. Until one day, 17-year-old Jordan and her 13-year-old sister finally escaped. They crawled out of a window, but her little sister got so scared she crawled back inside. But Jordan, she knew that if she did not make it out right now, they were all going to die eventually. And using a phone that she had secretly grabbed from the house, she calls 911. Shaking and terrified, she tells police, "I just ran away from home. My parents are abusing us. They hit us, and 2 of my sisters are chained up right now." Police rush to the house, and when they walk inside, 3 kids are still chained to the beds, and the rest of them are scattered around the house in rooms that reek of death. But you think that'd be the end, right? Now that they're finally safe. No, because somehow the system failed them again. They got dumped into foster homes where they were abused again, assaulted again, neglected again. How does that even happen? And the government raised millions in donations to help the Turpin kids rebuild their lives, but they were still broke, still hungry, and still struggling for many years. Where did that money go? And then David and Louise had the audacity to walk into court and say, not guilty. Not guilty? You change your kids to beds. You let them rot in their own filth. And now you're pretending like it's all a big misunderstanding. Luckily, they eventually took a plea deal, but not because they felt sorry, not because they felt bad. It was because they wanted to avoid their kids being able to testify. And what did they get? 25 to life, but guess what? They can apply for parole in 25 years. And if either of them ever walks free, this country has failed us again.
A 17-year-old boy admitted to breaking into a home, beating and raping a 98-year-old woman while leaving his DNA inside her body. Gavin Ramsey, the teenage perpetrator, invaded 98-year-old Margaret Douglas's residence in Wadsworth under cover of darkness last April. He used his phone to record her sleeping, then murdered her and desecrated her corpse while leaving biological evidence at the scene. During court proceedings, Ramsey's family revealed he had endured childhood abuse and been prescribed the antidepressant Zoloft during adolescence, factors they claimed contributed to the horrific crimes. Margaret Douglas's loved ones tearfully described her vivacious personality and passion for life, emphasizing how Ramsey destroyed her dream of reaching 100 years old. The presiding judge sentenced Ramsey to life imprisonment without parole. His mother accepted partial responsibility in court, admitting she authorized his Zoloft prescription and alleging the medication altered his behavior. Is a life sentence too severe for a 17-year-old? Share your perspective on this punishment in the comments.
This mom helped her son cover up his girlfriend's murder. Emely Peguero was born on July 12, 2001 in the Dominican Republic. She had 2 older siblings, a brother and a sister, so she was the baby of the family. Everyone describes her as being absolutely beautiful, very kind and loving, and just extremely bright. Her parents were very hardworking people. They didn't come from a lot of money, but they did their best to provide a good life for Emely and her siblings. When Emely was a little girl, she would often play with the neighbor that lived across the street, and his name is Marlon Martinez. Even though they were neighbors and lived right next to each other, they came from very different families. Marlon's mother, Marlene, was very well known around the community. She worked in politics, so she had a lot of connections. They lived in this very big house that was guarded by a large gate, while Emely lived in a more humble, tiny home. Emely and Marlon grew up very close to each other, and when Emely was 15 years old and Marlon was 18 years old, they began to date. So yes, she was a minor. They dated for a few months, and when Emely was 16 years old and Marlon was now 19 years old, they found out that Emely was pregnant. Of course, Emely's family was very scared and very nervous because the baby of the family was now going to have her own baby. It was definitely a scary situation, but they were supportive of Emely. As for Marlon's family, his mom was not happy about this. She was very upset about the fact that her son got a poor girl pregnant, and she was really worried about the family's reputation. She honestly didn't even care that Emely was 16 and was so young and going through this really big life-changing moment. She cared more about how this was going to affect her son's future and how this was going to affect him going to college. Despite his mom's opinion, Marlon told Emely and her dad that he was going to step up, take responsibility for this, and take care of Emely and the baby. Fast forward to August 23rd, 2017, Emely is now 5 months pregnant and she is expecting a baby boy. That day, Emely had plans to go to the clinic with Marlon to go pick up some lab results, and then she said that she would be back later that day. So Marlon picked her up at around 8:30 in the morning and the two of them headed off to the clinic. At around 11:25 in the morning, Emely texted her older sister saying that Marlon was actually going to drop her off at a gas station because she had plans to go meet up with their uncle. Now, as soon as Emely's sister and their mom saw this message, they were immediately concerned. First of all, Emely always sends voice messages, so the fact that she texted this time was extremely odd. Second of all, they were thinking, what uncle? Like, what uncle is Emely meeting with, and why don't we know about this meetup? Why would the uncle ask Emely to meet him at the gas station? Like, none of this made any sense. Now again, since the families are neighbors, they can literally see Marlon arriving home completely alone across the street. So Emely's sister decides to go across the street to ask Marlon, where is my sister? Where did you leave her? And that's when Marlon explains that as they were driving to the clinic, Emely realized that she got the dates confused and that her results weren't going to be ready that day, but instead be ready Friday. So she asked Marlon to take her home, and as they were driving, she said, actually, can you drop me off at the gas station? My uncle is going to pick me up there. So that's exactly what he did, and that was the last time that he saw or spoke to her. Again, Emely's family was extremely suspicious of this, so they decided to go to the gas station and ask the employees for the surveillance footage. And when they got to the gas station and looked at the footage, they were shocked by what they saw. Well, actually, they were shocked by what they didn't see. Okay, go to part 2.
I have some updates for you guys in the case of 7-month-old Emmanuel Harrow from Yucaipa, California, whose mother reported him kidnapped on August 14th. So the guy on top is attorney Vincent Hughes. He was retained to represent Jake Harrow, not Rebecca, just Jake, who he has previously represented. Remember his 2018 felony charge of willful child cruelty that he was convicted of in 2023? Well, check this out. This is from KTLA. On October 13th, 2018, Harrow and his ex-wife, Avina's 10-week-old daughter, was admitted to Hemet Valley Hospital. Doctors reported to police that the little girl had an acute or new fractured rib, 6 ribs with healing fractures, a skull fracture, brain hemorrhage, swelling of the neck, and a fractured leg bone that was healing. He blamed the baby's injuries on his wife, so they were both arrested and charged, and they both pleaded guilty in 2023. So what I want to know is, if this man practically killed his baby girl, why on earth was he not in prison, and why was he allowed to still be around children? And I wanted to show you guys this. These are some older photos of Rebecca Harrow, and this one is obviously recent. People are saying that there's a video going around that shows she actually had that black eye on August 3rd. And it's also being reported that nobody saw baby Emmanuel at that football practice. Now, going back to the attorney, he did confirm that both Rebecca and Jake handed over their iPhones and their laptops along with the passcodes. And it's going around that their property is surrounded by cameras, but when the police tried to obtain that footage, it had already been deleted. The attorney hasn't said anything to confirm that, but I just wanted to tell you guys it is a rumor at this point. Anyway, be sure to hit the follow button because I'll keep you guys updated.
This is the little girl who found her dad unalived with a spoon and a pointy thing laying next to him and covered him back up with a blanket because she thought he was sleeping on the bathroom floor again. That little girl I was just talking about is my little sister Lisa, who found our dad passed away almost 10 years ago. Yesterday, that same little girl and my half-brother, Zach, lost their mom as well. I'm gonna jump straight to the point because I'm sure all of you are wondering why the hell I'm on here crying like this. And it's because I simply don't know what else to do. These two kids have to live the rest of their life without either of their parents going to their wedding or their graduation or meeting their grandkids because of their parents' own selfish actions. If you've watched this far, I'm sorry for how much of a wreck I am, and I'm thankful for you watching because thankfully I am part of the creator rewards, which means that any money from this video will go directly to supporting these two kids. Now, they're not this young anymore. My sister is almost a junior in high school and my brother's 19 years old and lives with me. We've all seen the pay off each other's debts trend or whatever you want to call it. And I personally didn't participate in it because I know my debt is a lot less than a lot of other people's, even though I do have the follower requirement and whatever. But all I'm asking of you is that you watch this for at least 5 seconds, which if you've made it this far you have, and that you like, comment, or share. Because this girl that was driving after high school to go make sure there was food on their table at my grandparents' house, and that their laundry was done, never imagined that they would lose both of their parents before he ever turned 20, and she ever got her driver's license. I'm raising 2 beautiful kids of my own. And when my dad passed away, I knew that as soon as I had kids, I was going to do everything in my power to make sure they didn't have the same childhood trauma that we went through. That also meant that I took out life insurance policies and I've invested in their future, but I never planned to financially support 4 kids. Like I mentioned before, my brother is 19 and he does currently live with us, and he works over 40 hours a week as a welder, and he's been saving money to try and move out on his own. This past week, he was actively trying to apply and call apartments for availability. Now, I don't know about you, but at 19, I had no clue what I was doing with my life. And when I was trying to move out, it wasn't the same economy that we're in today. So my plan is to take the money from this video and help him buy any furniture and things he needs for his own apartment and maybe put down a deposit. And my sister just got into CTC, which is like a vocational school, and would really like to go to college after that. Obviously, there's nothing I can do or say to them right now that is going to take the pain of losing both of their parents away. So if I can take this much of the financial burden from their lives, I want to at least give it a try. They have absolutely no clue that I'm posting this video, and they would probably tell me not to because they don't want handouts. So yeah, for a minute, I'm going to be that girl crying on the internet. Because if you had the chance to help your family, you would too.
Breaking news, a 12-year-old girl missing for months was just found 600 miles away from her home with a 34-year-old man that she met online. Maria Gomez Perez was recovered safely in Dover, Ohio on Thursday, which was 8 weeks after she was last seen at her family's home in Gainesville, Georgia on May 29th. She was tracked to Ohio when she used a new Facebook account to message her dad saying she was fine and she wanted him to stop looking for her. They tracked the IP address of that message to Dover, and that's when they found Gomez Perez staying with a 34-year-old man, Antonio Augustine, and after following them, they were able to arrest him in a shopping center parking lot. Gomez Perez was taken to a hospital for a wellness check and then was sent back to her family in Georgia. Investigators believe Augustine traveled from Ohio to Georgia, where he picked up the girl and then drove back to Ohio. They said Maria was communicating with him through Facebook Messenger and other apps, and she was indicating that she wasn't happy and wanted to leave her home, and she even did this with many other adult males. Augustine is currently being held in jail and is facing charges in Georgia and Ohio. But let me know what you guys think about this, and as always, I'll keep you guys updated.
This girl unalived her little brother, then consumed his private parts. This is 5-year-old Maicon Rauch and his 18-year-old sister Karina, and they both live with their mother Daniela in Brazil. On April 4th of 2019, Daniela had to do some shopping, so she left Maicon back at home with Karina. Daniela returned home over an hour later, and for some reason she wasn't able to open the front door, just wouldn't open. Daniela had yelled for her children to come help open the door for her, but Karina yelled back that she couldn't open it for her. Daniela started to get worried, so she had contacted her brother-in-law to come break down the door. Once they both got inside the home, they were met with a horrific scene. Karina had unalived Maicon, partially decapitated him, and mutilated him. The family dog started to attack Karina, and she retaliated and bit the dog. Karina then started to attack the uncle by throwing things at him and hitting him. She even tried to flee the scene, but she was luckily caught. Once police had arrived and saw Maicon's body, they saw that his body was surrounded by black candles. That's when they discovered that Karina had cut and eaten some parts of Maicon's body. Karina was quickly arrested and taken to the police station. At first, Karina refused to speak, but later on, she confessed everything. She stated that she asked Maicon if he wanted to come in her room to play some games, and of course, Maicon agreed. Karina grabbed a pillow, pinned him down, and suffocated him. Karina then grabbed a knife and tried to remove his head. She had left Maicon partially decapitated. Karina then inserted the knife into his eyes and burned his feet with a lighter. She then removed his genitals and ate them. Karina was charged with aggravated homicide, attempted murder of her uncle, hiding a dead body, and biting the family dog. Karina was sent to a psychiatric hospital, and she continues to receive medical, social, and psychological care.
It began as a normal day in July 2019. That was until locals in a neighbourhood in New South Wales, Australia, entered a real-life horror film. A woman was covered in blood, yelling for people to phone the police. The woman in question was Jessica Camilleri, and the neighbourhood would never be the same again. Jessica was the daughter of Vince and Rita Camilleri, and she had a troubled upbringing. She struggled with various mental health issues, including bipolar and paranoia. She was bullied at school and was eventually removed after an assault. Her behaviour started escalating and she frequently had violent outbursts. Despite her parents getting divorced, her mum Rita remained dedicated to looking after Jessica. In 2018, Jessica was detained in a psychiatric facility after attacking a woman in a doctor's waiting room. She had also attacked several members of her family and random members of the public prior to this. Things got worse while she was in the facility. She ended up attacking a nurse, and her mum insisted on discharging her. She said things would be fine and she would look after Jessica at home. The pair actually had a fairly good relationship and they would send each other sweet messages. However, Jessica started to become obsessed with a man that she knew, harassing him with phone calls and threatening him. Rita actually had to take her to the police station to try and scare her into stopping. It worked for a while and the calls died down. Then on July the 20th, 2019, while out walking with her mum, Jessica had an episode of paranoia. Suddenly she decided that her mum was trying to humiliate her. She escalated into a violent rage and her mum had to try and call the doctor to come and assess her. However, when the doctor arrived at the house, Jessica actually chased him out. As Rita tried to phone for emergency services, Jessica attacked her with 7 knives. She decapitated her mum and dragged her head outside onto the pavement. Covered in blood, she ran to her neighbours' houses, yelling that she'd killed her mum. When police arrived at the scene, Jessica was stood asking if it was possible to bring someone back to life if they didn't have a head. The crime scene was so disturbing that many of the emergency services personnel had to get trauma therapy. In 2020, Jessica was found not guilty of murder, but guilty of manslaughter due to her complex psychiatric illnesses. She was eventually given 16 years in prison.